Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and as I'm sure you can guess, we have some excited birds with us as part of the time that I have to actually do some recording is, of course, during the day when they're at their most energetic, so it is probably unfortunately for you guys, something that we're just going to have to deal with. So, okay, so we rolled piano soundtrack. I know it was mentioned that the dice hitting the table is pretty loud, and yeah, it is, but it's also dice hitting a table. At least you know I'm actually rolling something. Alright, so I think today, let's see, I was trying to debate myself between Gravity Onslaught and Mortal Coil. Which one do I want to do? I'm saving Absolute Finale, I mean, it would be funny if I did it at the very, very end, but I'm probably not going to do that. Let's go with my original plan and go Gravity Onslaught. Which, as you can see, is just a nice dashing punch that leaves a gravity well on your enemies. Nice and effective, nothing out of the ordinary. Well, actually a lot out of the ordinary, considering how far you dash and the idea that it's a nice lingering effect. Each charge has roughly a 5-second cooldown, so they are aware that this bad boy gets work done. So, this spell counts as both movement and melee, so your general best synergies are going to be for, like, something obviously movement-based, like a good soccer cleats deck, even though the damage is not incredibly high, at least not per hit, but you get a lot of ticks. Or in something like a Ring of Reserve / high tempo deck, which I think I'm going to try to do today because I don't do that very often. And the idea there is that it's not that your attacks do a lot of damage to any one target, it's that you're constantly throwing attacks out and just making things super hard for your enemies. So, why don't we work with that? Sounds like fun, right? Alright, and now it's just a matter of finding the right spell to pair with it. Usually when I do a build like this, I pair it with Explosive Charge. I don't think I'm going to do that this time. But I do want you to understand that it is an option that I considered. But I've done that before. I would rather do something a little different this time. Potentially Dragon Arc, just to have a long-range spell to work with. But actually, I think what I'm going to go with is Dragon Circuit. Because that gives us a nice ranged option in between our punches. Then it's just a matter of selecting the right dash. Which I think... See, I want to go with something that I can use somewhat aggressively. Because this is a very aggressive build. I think we're going to go Flare Rush. And then, something to keep myself somewhat safe with a build that's a little experimental. And I think we're good. Oh, and I should show you the signature cast of Gravity Onslaught. There you go. It's gigantic damage. We've got certified Mike Tyson haymakers going on there, and I think it's beautiful. Alright, I can't think of... Well, okay, I can think of a place I want to start, mostly because I know that they're going to resist both my dash and my basic, and the knights here are going to make it very difficult for me to use Gravity Onslaught. Alright, so the very first thing I will say about this build... Well, first of all, getting Earthquake Axe is a big win. Alright, sorry about that. But we'll say it is a little difficult to get everything to set up properly. Or maybe the setup isn't the problem, it's just... The problem is that everything is kind of mid to low damage, so it takes a little while to take out a group of enemies. So, yes, I understand that the idea behind this build is... Okay, can't really use that, otherwise I'll be missing out on Dragon Circuit. That's not good. Like, I understand that the idea behind this build is just constant aggression. But I should also point out that at some point or another that should come with... Oh, Jesus. I mean, yes, this would solve my damage problems, but as you can see, there's definite issues going on with that idea, so maybe don't take the super dangerous relic that's going to make it easy for me to die. It also makes it easy for me to knock out my enemies. Ugh. I don't think there's... It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. There's a reason why the term high risk, high reward was coined. Alright, so actually talking about Gravity Onslaught now. So one thing that you're probably being made well aware of is the idea that the Onslaught in and of itself doesn't do a ton of damage. Actually, none of those are particularly helpful. I'll buy that just to have something, but yeah, not great. Okay, well this floor was kind of a dud. Sorry, again, I lost my focus. Or rather, I put my focus on maintaining my combo. But yes, that sort of like constantly throwing out attacks and dipping and ducking and dodging and diving or in between enemies. That's exactly what this build is supposed to look like. Okay, there are things I like here. We start with that. Alright, so talking about Gravity Onslaught in and of itself, the idea of this spell isn't necessarily its damage. It's the idea that it's a nice lunging dash. Like, it actually keeps you harder to target because of how much you're moving around. So its primary use isn't necessarily damage, it's in keeping yourself at a safe distance. And the damage it deals is meant to keep enemies more or less stun-locked and able to receive further retaliation. Whereas the signature was definitely designed with damage in mind, just because it scores so many hits. So it's one of those spells that, if I were to offer any pointers, it's the idea of practice, because you are definitely going to be needing to understand how best to use this. Because if you're doing what I was doing and just spamming it for damage, you are kind of missing part of the point of the spell. Like, a good part of how the spell works is that it's good at doing essentially incidental damage. And when I say that, I mean you're using it mostly to keep enemies confused, not necessarily as a dodge, but as kind of like a long-range lunge and combo op. To stay close to your enemies and throw off the targeting of longer range foes like lancers and archers. Essentially, you're making yourself harder to hit while attacking at the same time. There we go. No thank you. Probably should have just taken it, just to create a little zone of you stay the hell over there. I don't know about that one. I'll think about it. Mortar fire ghouls, no bueno. Why does it seem like I'm just getting these really awkward awkward relics? Now, I don't want to downplay what Gravity Onslaught does, because it is really good for comboing, since you're just inundating the enemy with a bunch of small hits. And that's part of what makes Gravity Onslaught so good for a Dark Katana build, but I wanted to show you guys something a little bit different this time around. Oops. Man, that was a nice long-winded dead end. One thing you probably just noticed, just like I did, is that being slowed actually does affect how far you dash with the Gravity Onslaught, making me think that higher movement results in longer dashes. It's something I wouldn't mind experimenting with, actually. That having been said, because of how difficult Gravity Onslaught can be to use, I am very much putting myself in danger using this. And it is possible that I'm overthinking how to use it. But in rooms chock full of those jumping golems and enemies whose specific point is to throw off your movement, like it becomes very clear that I am dealing with kind of the hardest combination of... Oh, pardon me. But yeah, I am dealing with kind of the hardest combination of rooms to deal with. I also very clearly underestimated the difficulty of this particular location. Okay, no, I actually do not want Magician's Wand. Increase Arcana activation speed, but slows movement speed. I'll try it. It's the worst thing that can happen. I die. I've already almost died once. So we're going to need to rely on burst movement options at this point. Yeah, that was a lot of damage to take on one floor. I was getting cooked. Get at least one charge of my Dash Arcana back. Go away. Ugh. Well, I said myself I was going to have to rely on burst movement, so here we go. Okay, I need to not forget about that. Hey, you got anything good for me? Yes, you have that. This is the second time the game has tried to get me to buy combo gloves. Thing is, I use this for the air spinners themselves, not necessarily for the burst at the end. I have a lot of multi-use stuff, so the Mercenary's Dagger would have me running out of money pretty quickly. Why yes, this build is very difficult to use. I keep forgetting about Storm Entourage, even though it's probably one of my better tools to use right now in conjunction with Gravity Onslaught. Okay, you cheesy little bastard. So Dark Sage, if you're having this much trouble on this stage, how are you going to handle Atlas's stage? A good question. I might have an answer for you when I get there. But I also want you to remember that I am openly using a build that is very difficult for me. Like, this isn't the sort of thing that you just throw on and then go, right, let's go roust the peasants. Like, you have to have a plan going into something like this, and the idea that it's a low damage plan means that you have to be pretty particularly on top of things. Yeah, there are so many things that... whatever. So many better things you could have put there. But since we are talking about something that enables movement... Oh, and there's another thing that enables movement. Very nice. And I'm gonna say I don't want that, so I'm gonna take this just for a chance at dodging around things. And I'll probably come back for box escape key, because I get the feeling I'm gonna need that. Alright, I think we're good. Also, let me know if you think this is TMI or not, but every time I see these Earth Knights, my colon kind of clenches up a little bit, because I know what they're capable of. So I just look at them and go, oh shit. Oh. Yes, this run is very nerve-wracking for me. Because as much as I like my high-concept builds, sometimes they end up being very difficult to pull off. Or sometimes you just get all the wrong relics, like is the case. Damn it! Like is the case with this build. Hey, we can finally upgrade that. I guess I can't really complain too much about that. I find it funny that I spend so much time trying to come up with really interesting high-concept builds, but in the end, nothing really seems quite as effective as just throwing things at people. Okay, can't afford to be taking that much damage. We've got... Oh, thank you, Storm Entourage. Okay. I've got to remember, Storm Entourage is my friend. I should be using it more. Like, that and Cardus Prime alongside, like, Gravity Onslaught, definitely good ideas. Here, you can have that. Hey, wait, you're wearing an Amulet of Sundering. Can I borrow that? Oh my goodness. All y'all stop now. Ugh, yeah, this is very stressful right now. I mean, obviously there are greater stressors in life in general, but yeah, no, this is stressful in the game. Ah, crap. Oh, I mean, there's an Amulet of Sundering. I was asking about that. Oh, if I'm being honest, I don't know, because now what I can do... Okay, I'm just gonna have to come back for that, but I do have a relic that's ultimately not that useful. Ow. Jesus. Oh, this is not good. I'm not happy. Oh, I am in such deep shit. So, of the Chaos signatures that I've used up to this point, this one might be the worst one, but not by its own virtues. Mostly just because it's difficult to use. Like, it's doing everything in its power to try to keep its user safe. It's got a nice long lunge, long-lasting gravity wells that do a fine amount of damage. Like, obviously, it being kind of a low damage spell kind of makes things a little bit trickier. But it's oftentimes what determines how well a spell like this does is what you're pairing it with, and I am pairing it with a bunch of projectiles, so things like Vortex Veil or Storm Entourage would obviously make for better synergy. And I will very much go out of my way to say that the silver spinning top was probably a bad choice. Because one thing that's particularly important after you use something like this is repositioning. That was an accidental pause. And it's really hard to reposition when you can barely move. Oh yeah, it's also a really good combo piece. Like, everything that this spell is should be working out quite nicely, but as you can see, it is very difficult to get this thing to work properly. Or allow me to rephrase that, it's difficult to get this thing to work properly with what I'm using. Like, I really should have considered pairing it with things that are a little bit more conducive to comboing with it. Because right now, all the negative feelings that I'm having about this spell are based around how well everything is working with it. Ow. Okay. I managed to do it, but I don't know how. Alright, so learn from my mistakes. Don't use Gravity Onslaught with things that are going to work poorly with it. You're going to need to reposition a lot better than I did, well, than I can with the Silver Spinning Top active. You're going to need things that either give you an orbital or a shield. Well, again, need is a strong term. Here's the thing, I like Gravity Onslaught, but I also am well aware of the idea that I was using it very poorly in this run. So this might be one that I come back to with a better synergy for this particular spell. And yes, I did win, but I don't know, was that really a showcase? Is that something you can look at and go, yeah, I think he used that well? So, I don't know. You guys let me know if you want me to try Gravity Onslaught again with something a little bit more... And actually, incidentally, that's kind of what I like about using Explosive Charge alongside it, because it allows me to reposition with a hitbox. So it's just dashing around, punching people, and either leaving them with a gravity well on their face or a pocket full of C4. And I think that build is particularly effective. It's a fun dash in and out combo style build that I really like using. But I don't know. I'm going on basically because I want you guys to understand I really like Gravity Onslaught, but I think I used it poorly. And I don't think I gave you guys the best impression of it because I was struggling so much to use it with something that, if I'm being honest, wasn't necessarily designed to support Gravity Onslaught, which means that it was being used mostly as a positioning tool, and a lot of the enemies were having a field day punishing me for my bad movements. But there you go. Gravity Onslaught in a nutshell. Let me know if you guys are interested in seeing another attempt at Gravity Onslaught. Of course, I am very appreciative for you guys coming and spending your free time with me today. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys want to continue watching and supporting my work. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. And my glucose alarm is going off because I had the audacity to eat food. That was an interesting way to end the video with that. Anyway, you guys have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and you take care, everybody.